IKEMBA One TV, redefining African culture and the spirit.
Welcome once again to IKEMBA One TV, the number one podcast studio in the Niger Delta. You know how we do it here? We redefine African culture and spirit. And this is your host, okay, Happiness Onyewe. As we do it, I am not here alone in the studio. I am here with a gentle and honorable, distinguished, a professional chartered accountant, project management consultant, development practitioner. The status, the accolade can go on and on. We can't even exhaust the title. And he is a proud son of Niger Delta. This is no other person than Dr. Valentine Ikonewari. Dr. Valentine.
Thank you very much,
Welcome
Oge.
to IKEMBA TV.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, we redefine African culture and spirit. And I would like you to tell us more, or just tell us about African and their culture.
Thank you very much. I welcome myself once more to IKEMBA One TV. And thank you, Oge. I think what I can tell you is what I do know of African culture. I may not be able to tell you about African culture, but what I do know of it. If culture, in my opinion, encompasses shared, customs, beliefs, values, and practices of a given group of people that helps in shaping their way of life, then it is African because we are examining how human beings in this region that is predominantly black, how they behave, what are their values, what have they adopted as customs and beliefs, and what have they been practicing over the years that has kept them till now. Now, I have looked at culture within this particular brand called Africa as predominantly rooted within the family, the African family. And what I try to look at times is the foundation for those set of values and beliefs. Take an instance. The constitution of a country is supposed to be the set of, rules, regulations, you understand me, that should be able to which they agree, that should bind them together, that will enable them live as in a community and as a people. So culture should be something like that too. So taking it from the family culture, what is predominant and peculiar about the African person is his family culture. Now, set of beliefs, values, customs, practices is varied, many. I mean, you know how many countries in Africa? About 56 countries in Africa, am I right? So even in Nigeria, I can't actually, So there are so many, but there's something very significant about the African culture. And there is a loss. There is a loss in the African cultural development. Cultural development. And what is very significant in the African culture is the family. You see, within Africa's family, that's where you find that set of values. And it's within the family you tell the child, this is how we behave here. These are the laws and the rules, you know, and the norms and the customs of our people. This is our tradition. It's within family. So now you find out that what is predominant actually in the African culture is the passing on of those traditions to the future African person, African child, the future African leader. So if he's not formed properly within the African family, then there's bound to be a disconnect. Now, take for instance, each child should grow, live, and express him or herself in the language of his or her people. Language, first of all, is a very powerful tool that transmits culture from one generation to the other. It's one very powerful tool that enables cultural association because it is indeed a communication tool. It is the only tool that could tell you, oh, when we sit as an African child, close your leg. You understand me? Close your leg. Come on, don't close your leg. You understand me? Another one goes, hey, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. That thing is communicated. Oh, yes. So now who is in charge of communicating family values, the traditions of the people to that child who will tomorrow be the African adult? So I have always hinged the entirety of custom, tradition, values, and beliefs of a people in a family and to the woman. I link it up to the woman.
To the woman?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that, sir.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I think it should be very interesting and embarrassing because she's a woman we're talking to.
Because I'm a woman.
Yes.
I want to know why is embedded on a woman in the family to transfer culture.
To transmit culture.
Okay.
You see, values are much more transmitted effectively to that child during breastfeeding. First stage. Because she's so connected to that child at that hour, and the child is so connected to her. So the totality of the child's, what I would say, aura is actually formed by her. Hey, stop! Hey, don't do this. As she's doing that breastfeeding, as that breastfeeding is going on, actually, she's actually forming the unseen environment of that child. She's forming it and strengthening it by, she sends that child thoughts. Either thought to sleep, thought to be well, thought to do this. At that moment, the connection is stronger. Now again, she teaches that child how to talk. And she ensures that the child speaks those values. Now, she is transmitting the values of the community that is resting within the family to that child who is that Africa of tomorrow. See how important she is. Very vital. And that is why she actually should lead. When the bridge is broken through and by her, the entirety of development is stalled. That accounts for the principal reason we're running around development and accepting our women get it right. Then there's nothing that can happen. Sorry about that. But that's not for today.
And
So
that brings me to the next question. Though you
mm,
touched it,
mm.
that do you think there are some of our values that are broken in our culture? Do you think now you talked about women taking the lead, to build a good culture into this generation? Do you think, because I just wanted to say something, but then you talked about a breastfeeding mother, transmitting cultural values to a child just from the very first beginning. I still believe there are children that don't go through breastfeeding. Does it mean, should that be a cultural breakage there?
Okay, I had thought. Thank you very much. I don't know about cultural breakage, but for a culture to be at all, it has to be transmitted from one generation to the other.
Okay, sir. That brings me to the next question. Even you've done justice to it, but I
Okay.
want you to throw more light. Do you think there are broken culture in Africa? I want you to narrow this down to your own culture.
That's interesting. Thank you very much. There has been distortions in our culture. And if I will go straight to my own hometown, where I am from the Ebani extraction of the Ijaw ethnic nationality. And about 80% of my people speak Igbo. Now, that's against the Ebani dialect of the Ijaw language. Now, the reason is that our mothers did not teach us the language. They were communicating to us with the Igbo language.
Why?
I like that. The reason we were told, some of us had asked, why? And we were told that they were protecting their culture because of the slavery that was the trade at that time. That in order for them to communicate effectively with the product of trade, that is slavery then, with the slaves then, that was the product of trade then. So they had to understand their language and communicated with them. And then married a lot of the women, and then they did not teach the women their Ibani language so that they could, I don't know the reason. But then, since you didn't teach them, they see the erosion, the distortion now. That was a distortion now, and that was an erosion now. Since you didn't teach them, so they began to have children, and they were communicating with these children in Igbo. You see how powerful language is in transmitting culture. You see now, many of the Opobos lost their language. Now, for me as a person, for you to find out how important the woman is in cultural development. You see, they are like the harbingers, they are like the cultural asset. Everything rings around them. Now, the strong woman will have liked to know, hey, husband, I like to know your language. I like to speak it. I like to vibrate in it. I like my children to know and vibrate in the language. Then that is progression. You understand me? So now you see that there is a disconnect there. First of all, even in language alone. The important thing is if this way of life is not transmitted from one generation to the other, then I don't know why it should be called culture.
George, so how do we, this is a very serious and touchy story. That's a whole community, a whole circle will begin to speak another man's language just because of their women and all that. Now, what do you think in redefining culture? What do you think? What are those steps that could be taken to revise this?
Oh, for me as a person, there's going to be a critical building block, but the most important factor in redefining culture is the African woman.
Okay.
Now, come to another set of belief and practice that you will have associated with the Africans that shaped their way of life over the years has to do with traditional worship. The Africans were popularly in those days, even now, known to have worshipped certain things. The origin is their form of worship. You understand me? And they termed it traditional, which in perhaps another refined language may be associated with atheism. But not truly atheism, because they believe in the Almighty. They believe in Chukwu. They believe in Chineke. You understand me? No, but how was it that they were worshiping around the trees? That is a fundamental and unique nature of the African culture. That the Africans were closely knit, closely connected to the elemental beings, the elements, the elemental forces. They were so closely connected with them that their development was gradual, natural, and sustainable. That is the uniqueness about the African. They're indigenous and ideal people. Their beauty laid in the fact that they were so closely connected with the elemental beings. And now, the elemental forces actually, for instance, in those days, they went to the farm and farmed.
This is IKEMBA One TV, redefining African culture and the spirit.